Growing up, I was a lonely ass kid. And like many lonely ass kids, I turned to reading to escape my reality. Among the Harry Potter novels and Goosebumps series were books about famous artists and their creations. I loved looking through these books, and many of the books that I read at that time inspired me to be the artist that I am today. Among those art books were the works of MC Escher. What drew me to his work initially, and what fascinates me to this day, is his mastery of perspective, impossible shapes, and surrealism. Part of what makes his work so visually interesting is his incorporation of elements that can be found in mathematics. Escher is not only an incredible artist, but a mathematical genius, and actually got his start as an architect. His art features mind-bending motifs that seem to distort reality around them, and his explorations into infinity, reflection, and symmetry are world-renowned to this day. Much of Escher's work was done through a process called lithography, where essentially an artist draws on a stone with a greasy crayon, then covers the stone with a thin film of water. The oily ink will stick to the greasy image, but not the water-covered areas. This process creates a visually striking image and unique texture. There are plenty of videos online if you're further curious about this process. When I ended up finding this art book at a garage sale a few months ago, my fascination with his work was renewed. I decided to challenge myself by creating 3 drawings based on 3 lithographs found in this book. For my process, I will be drawing an image inspired by the work using regular ink pens, not lithography, though I might try my hand at something like that one day. This is an example of a lithograph. The viewer is placed in a void that seems to stretch to infinity. We find ourselves in a vault featuring a sarcophagus of a religious figure. A giant praying mantis sits on top of the figure's chest. Its eyes and head turn curiously towards the viewer. The second work of art that I want to highlight from this book is called 3 Worlds. In this work of art, the title refers to 3 visible perspectives in the image. One being the surface of the water with the leaves, the world below the surface with the fish, and the world above the water reflected in the forest. Which perspective stands out the most to you? Lastly, I want to highlight House of Stairs, featuring 46 curl-ups, or however you pronounce this. They are imaginary humanoid bug-like creatures made up by Escher, and a series of stairs and doorways of various perspectives and impossible interiors. Escher adds his own surrealist touch by incorporating these strange wandering creatures. In the book, there is a bunch of text in the background of the image directly next to it. I wonder what it says. As you can see, this book contains many of his works of art, and all of them are incredible. I can't include every single image, but I would highly encourage you to go check out MC Escher's work for yourself. I'm sure you would be able to find some inspiration. So for day 1, I was inspired by the lithograph Another World. The overall structure is a paradox, with an archway on either side of the 5 visible sides of the room. The image seems to be set on some astral plane, as what appears to be the vast expanse of space is visible from each of the archways. 3 humanoid birds are visible on 3 of the arches, and it's implied from the perspective the viewer sits that we are one of the birds. And this is my drawing. Now, before you start hating, I want to emphasize that this style of paradoxical artwork is extremely complex and mathematical, and clearly out of my comfort zone as an artist. This exercise of creating a work of art that has multiple perspectives is a process that requires a lot of knowledge and skill. And as it turns out, I earned D's in every math class I took. So it's safe to say I struggled big time with the multiple perspectives thing. For my own drawing, I attempted to show multiple perspectives, but as this was my first time attempting something like that, I clearly struggled. I positioned the viewer staring down a hallway. I managed to include some archways on either side, but sadly the archway on the top was added as an afterthought, and it's clear I rushed it. I also randomly added a tree, which is cool, I guess, and inspired by another work by Escher. I just wish that I had more intentionality with this piece overall. Safe to say the first day of the challenge was rough, but I'm learning to take my time and not rush the process. For day 2, I was inspired by Circle Limit 4. The lithograph Escher was inspired by to create this piece is based on an image a mathematician used in a lecture. Escher was so moved by this image, he created several art pieces inspired by it. This project was a fun way to dip my toe into the world of tessellations. Unfortunately, this shit is hard as fuck. As you can see, my drawing turned out less like a mastery in mathematics and more like a child's school art project. I did my best, taking time to map out my design using a ruler. I wanted to draw inspiration from the angel-demon motif, so I created and cut out this symmetrical angel. But then I was left with a strange, abstract blank space where I had to force some kind of demonic face into. I definitely took some artistic liberties with this piece, adding a halo to the angel and devil horns to the demon. I actually had fun with this piece, even though due to my poor planning, one of the horns got cut off. I wish I could have added the circular element of Escher's work, as the way the images of the angel and demon grow smaller and smaller as it moves from the center of the circle to the edges is satisfying and so beautiful. I attempted to add some hatchwork elements to my drawing just as Escher did in his, and I love the hypnotic energy it brings. Next time I attempt this style, I would take my time and be a lot more precise and patient with my work. For the final day, I was inspired by waterfall. The paradoxical nature of this drawing is so mind-bending. When you follow the aqueduct from the water wheel at the bottom all the way up to the top of the waterfall, the perspective doesn't make sense. The detail in this piece is also incredible. The shading is precise and helps sell the impossibility of the perspective. There is plant life near the bottom of the drawing that is referenced in many of Escher's other works. I also love the little detail of the water house as well. It's so mysterious. The two main characters in the scene are fascinating too. One's looking up at the impossible structure and the other is going about her daily life, seemingly unfazed by the architectural anomaly. The background is also extremely interesting to me. I wonder about the terrain on which the house was built. Is it just me or does it look like an alien planet? And here's how mine turned out. From a distance, it doesn't look too bad. I spent the most time on this one trying to get the angles right and add as much detail as possible. But as you look closer, my drawing has none of the incredible attention to detail and mathematical perfection that Escher's does. I mean, taking a ruler to his image is insane. Everything is in perfect alignment, and the impeccable shading makes it look almost like a photograph. I attempted to add my own artistic element of that damn tree I drew on day one, but sadly, as cool and sick as it looks, it doesn't fit the overall composition. For my drawing, I used a ruler. I do think taking the extra steps to align everything to the best of my abilities added to the composition and alignment of the piece, but to be honest, I feel like it's still very weak. To be honest, I could have gone back and cleaned these drawings up or even remade them completely, but I ran out of steam working on these. Even though it was fun to challenge myself and try something new, this was not easy, and honestly, I never want to work on these drawings again. So here's what I learned. Number one is MC Escher is an incredible artist. I cannot stop looking at this book. I'm fascinated and terrified by his skill. And also, number two, using rulers is cool. It really elevated my artwork. Also, challenging yourself is good and cool. And don't be afraid to try something new. Even though it may be a very humbling experience, I think that challenging ourselves helps us grow as an artist. So let me know if you were inspired by any of MC Escher's work, and if you try drawing any perspective drawings, let me know. Bye guys, thank you.